Although slavery was abolished in 1865, slavery still exists in this nation. The FBI states, "It is sad but true. Here in this country, people are being bought, sold, and smuggled like modern-day slaves." Human trafficking is a $32 billion industry worldwide, according to the UN, which means that human trafficking can affect family members, friends, or even ourselves are vulnerable to becoming a victim of human trafficking. Palermo Protocols defines human trafficking as the recruitment, the transportation, transfer, harboring, or receipt of persons by means of threat or use of force or other forms of coercion. I want to speak specifically on sex trafficking because out of the 21 million victims of human trafficking worldwide, 4.5 million of those victims are being trafficked for the purpose of sexual exploitation, according to the International Labor Organization. I want to explain the types of victims who pimps are actively pursuing, as well as share some of the victim stories who are no longer bound. In addition, I want to share that nonprofit organizations and awareness are one of the keys in eliminating sex slavery. First of all, sex trafficking exists because there is a demand for it. So in order to keep up with the supply, pimps are actively pursuing young victims in colleges, malls, transportation hubs, and even online to meet the demands. And they're pursuing these victims by coaxing, becoming a victim, or becoming a boyfriend, or building a relationship, or even by force or drugging. And out of the victims, 300 to 400,000 of these victims are children, according to the U.S. Department of Homeland Security. Annie Lobert was a victim of sex trafficking. She met a man that she fell in love with who turned out to be a pimp and started beating her and forcing her into sex trafficking. Brittany was actually recruited at a mall and in need of a job, was recruited by a man who turned out to be a trafficker and forced her into sexual exploitation. In my personal experience, I was approached at the age of 15 in downtown Seattle by a young woman who told me that I was going to belong to a pimp. Thankfully, I was able to escape that night with my friends, but unfortunately, other young victims aren't so lucky. Now that we know the problem of human trafficking, I want to share with you some of the solutions. Nonprofit organizations are vital in the aiding and rescuing of victims of sex slavery. The Department of Homeland Security says that they rely on the partnership of faith-based organizations and nonprofit organizations. The Atlanta Dream Center has been rescuing victims for over 10 years. I've been able to go out to Metro Atlanta with them in order to share with them the hotline and even a rose and offer them a place to stay and hope. It is estimated that a woman calls their hotline daily. And in the last 2 years, 397 women have been set free from human trafficking. In addition to nonprofit organizations, awareness is the key. Benji Nolot is the spokesperson for Exodus Cry, as well as filmmaker of Nefarious. He says that sex trafficking thrives when it is hidden in the shadows, but awareness brings the darkness to the light, which becomes a voice for the victims. William Wilberforce was a voice in the late 1700s to abolish the slave trade. Like William Wilberforce, we need to become a voice for these victims because pimps are actively seeking out victims for human trafficking. And this next generation, our children, our loved ones, can become vulnerable to sex trafficking. In order to combat sex trafficking, we need to bring awareness as well as come alongside nonprofit organizations.